Hey guys, Kevin here with eTrailer, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Roadmaster Active Suspension Enhancement System on our 2015 Chevy Silverado 1500. Alright, so here's our Roadmaster Active Suspension kit installed on our 2015 Chevy Silverado 1500. As you can see, it uses a simple hook to attach onto the leaf spring up here, and then down here it uses some brackets with a bolt that's going to go on the other side of your spring stack. So the Roadmaster Active Suspension System is going to really help out with any pin weight issues that you're having with your fifth wheel. Maybe your travel trailer is really making you squat. When you drop your fifth wheel into the hitch and it drops your truck down, these are really going to help enhance your leaf springs, keep them up, keep it stable, keep your ride real level so that you're driving level and comfortable and stable, and you're not having any bouncing or chucking. You're not experiencing that sway that you might have. They'll also really help. Maybe you're just hauling some heavy equipment. Maybe you are a construction worker, you've got a bunch of heavy tools or any kind of materials that you need to load into the bed. That'll really help out, kind of mitigate that sag you might experience and overall give you a better ride quality. So right now we got an empty bed. We're going to be taking some measurements, show you exactly where the height of the bed sits while it's empty, and then we'll give you some dimensions on once we throw some weight in this. So starting off, the wheel well is going to sit right at about 38 inches empty. All right, and up front, our wheel well is going to be sitting right at about 35 inches. It's really important to check this. That way you make sure that your headlights aren't shining up, hitting anybody. You actually have them on the road so that you can actually see where you're going. All right, so now we got our 1,900-pound water tank in the bed of the truck. You can see it's clearly weighed down the bed quite a bit. Take a new measurement. So we've dropped 3¼ inches down. We're down at 34 3/4, when we used to be at 38. Now we'll come over to the front and take a measurement and see where we're at. So that raised us up about 1/4 inch. So our headlights are going to be less on the road and more on the vehicles in front of us. All right, so now we're going to give you a little example here. We're going to take a ride through our bump course, show you what you might experience when you're out on the road, maybe dealing with some potholes on the highway or something like that while you got a heavy load. So we're going to come through here. Now we feel just really weighed down. There's a ton of bouncing around that you normally wouldn't feel if you weren't loaded down. These factory bump stops are actually touching right now, so we're not really getting any suspension help. Just feels real stiff, real heavy. All right, so now we're gonna go down our slalom course here. We're gonna make some tight turns, maybe some evasive maneuvers, try and give you that real experience without any suspension support besides just the factory bump stops. So we'll keep going here. So going around, like I said before, it just feels real stiff. Don't feel like I can really make tight turns without slamming on the brake here a bit. Really weighing me down right now. Okay, so now that we got the Roadmaster Active Suspension System in place, I'm going to take some measurements. So before having it on, we had a 38-inch measurement from the ground up to our wheel well on the rear, and right now it looks like we're sitting at 38 3/4. So it did raise this up 3/4 inch because it is kind of pulling on that leaf spring, pulling it back up, giving you a little bit more space so that when you drop in a heavy load, it's going to be there to support it. Let's go up front. We'll take a measurement up there as well. So up here we had a 35-inch measurement beforehand, and now it looks like we're sitting at 35 1/4. So it only raised us up about 1/4 inch. So no big deal there. All right, so now we got our tank in the back of the truck. It weighs approximately 1,900 pounds. I'm going to take some measurements here, show you just how much we dropped down a little bit. Take it down. So now it puts us down at 35 1/2. You know, we're experiencing a little bit of a drop from what we were before, but still this is really holding a lot more of the weight than when we didn't have it on there. And this is also really going to help with any kind of bouncing we might experience as we're going up and down a bumpy road. Really kind of help support that weight. And then also these are going to work independently. So like right now we kind of have this leaning more to this side of the bed, so it's going to be putting more pressure here. So this spring over here is going to be working a little bit harder than that spring over there. But now let's go up front. We can take another measurement and see where we're at up there. All right, so up front we are sitting right at, looks like 35 and 5/8. So it raises up a little bit. It's really important to kind of keep an eye on this. You don't want to raise your front up too much. That can end up shining your lights on somebody else instead of on the road, and you'll lose visibility. And also putting more weight on the back and not kind of having it equal up front is going to put more wear and stress on that axle and your tires, and it's going to end up eating up your tires back there a whole lot quicker and maybe wearing them unevenly, which is going to cost you a lot more money in the long run. Plus, losing that tire up here, that coverage on the ground, that's also going to affect your braking. All right, so now we're going to go through our test course here. We've got some bumps set up so that you can kind of see how this is going to help out your suspension and give you less road shock when you're going up and down a bumpy road. So we'll take off right here. So just starting out, definitely a whole lot better. First time I ran through here with the tank with no help. I mean, I was having a hard time talking because I'm jumping up and down. With these tanks full of water in the back, we got weight kind of shifting around back and forth. So taking these turns, I could definitely tell a difference. Like before, I was kind of making me kind of lean to one side as I was trying to take a turn as that water shifts in the bed of the truck. Because you may not always have, something solid back there. You may have something liquid that's moving around, so it's really good to know that your truck can handle that. So next we'll go over and do some evasive maneuvers. Maybe you're on the highway, people are slamming on the brakes, maybe there's an accident, something like that. You want to make sure that you're safe and confident in your truck and its ability to stop and make tight, quick movements. Okay, so now we're going to do these evasive maneuvers. We're going to speed up. As I'm shifting here, I don't feel it kind of forcing me one way. Like I said earlier, with the water not always being a stable object in the back, no problem taking these turns. I really don't even feel like I have it back there. Some of the other products that I've tested out, you can still kind of feel it dragging you down depending on the weight capacity that it has. But this suspension system enhancement has a 2,000 pound capacity, and with the setting that we have it at with that black spacer, like I said, it's going to give you around 2 inches of lift so that you don't experience that sag, and then also going to take out about 40% of that heavy weight that you're feeling. So my overall impression of the install was that this was definitely one of the easiest installs I've ever done. I did one earlier on the Stability Plus, which we also carry. It's a little bit more invasive, a lot more bolts and nuts that you're going to have to deal with, whereas this is just one simple bolt that you got to slide through and then just a hook that grips onto your leaf spring. So it's really just a few minutes. You're going to spend more time trying to lift your truck up and take your wheel off than you would actually installing this and tightening it up. Overall, super easy, but let's show you how that gets done. All right, so already all out of the box, this Roadmaster Active Suspension system here is already put together. Makes it super easy, nice and convenient. You don't really have to do anything to get this rolling like you might with other products. The only tools you are going to need are a 10 millimeter Allen wrench bit, a 12 millimeter socket, and a 19 millimeter wrench, just so that you can take off these bolts and then also tighten up the spring later on once we have it on the leaf spring. So right now, I'm just going to take this bolt off just so we can get started here. So I'm going to take my 10 millimeter Allen wrench bit, put it on there, and then take my 19 millimeter wrench here on that bolt just to get it off. And it's out of there. Pull that out. Then we're going to take these and we're just going to go set this right on the leaf spring. All right, so this is easily just going to sit up on here. So the reason why I took that bolt off to start is so that we don't have to worry about it here, so that it can sit right down, because we're actually going to attach this bolt under here. And then this part up here, this hook, is going to sit right up on your leaf spring. You want to make sure that's centered on here. You don't want it hanging off one side or the other like that. You want to have it right on there so it's making good contact once we tighten this down. So the goal here is to get this out far enough that we can get one of our bolts through the holes here under the leaf springs. So we're going to turn this so it's a little bit easier. You just hold this nut back here as you're turning it, so that we can get a little bit more room here. Just a little bit more. All right, so next we're gonna stick our bolt through with our spacer and then our nut. So you wanna make sure that you leave yourself enough room. You don't wanna be pinching any brake lines or any wiring that might be coming through. I found it easier to take the Allen wrench side towards the inside of the vehicle and then the nut itself up against the brake side over here. Just a little bit easier to get your wrench in there and get it going. But we're gonna slide the bolt in the first hole, put our spacer in, slide that through. We can hand tighten our nut. All right, so now we can tighten it up with our wrenches. I can get it in there. And you're going to want to make sure that your axle is hanging freely while you're doing this. You don't want any tension on your leaf spring as you're installing this. All right. Now we can go ahead and start tightening up the spring, get it ready to go. Just double check, make sure that your eyelet here thing didn't come off at all, like ours when I got up. It kind of shifted a little bit as I was tightening this up. So you want to make sure you got it right in line with your leaf spring here. Like I said at the beginning, you don't want it hanging over. And we'll go ahead and tighten it. You can hand tighten it a little bit and then throw on a 12 millimeter socket to really get it going. Now this is going to take a little bit of time here. When I worked on it before, it took me probably 2 or 3 minutes of just turning it to get it really where I needed it to be. And we can check it as we're going with these spacers that are included with your kit here. So if you're noticing this nut back here moving at all, just put your hand on that, get a little bit of something to grip onto so that you can keep tightening this. It will try to move on you, and if it is, it's not going to get any tighter. It's just the whole coil itself is just going to be spinning in place. So like I was saying, to keep this from moving, you can also throw on some vice grips if it's just a little bit too hard to hold it with your fingers, just to make it a little bit easier as you're tightening this down. All right, so the included spacers that you have in your kit, there's going to be a white one and a black one. So the white one is going to fit through now that we actually tightened it up a little bit. Our black one's still not fitting. So the difference between these two tensions here is that this is going to reduce squat by about 1 inch, whereas if you had a gap big enough for this black spacer, it's going to help out with about a 2-inch difference in squat. Now our black spacer's sliding right through, no issues. So now all that's left to do is just put the wheel back on and drop the truck back down, and you're good to go. Well, I think that about does it with our Roadmaster Active Suspension Enhancement System here on our 2015 Chevy Silverado 1500. My name's Kevin. Thanks for watching.